howdy. You are at the However podcast. My name is Zach.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're going to be talking about presidents.
Or rather, the debate. Now,
the lack of presidents. That's what it feels like at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like we have much.
I'm sure everyone, we watched the debate, we watched it kind of separately. But I'm sure, this is a huge talking point right now all over the country. This is all anyone can talk about because it's just, it's funny, which it shouldn't be because it's a presidential debate, but it's so ridiculous and just off the hook that it's like we gotta talk about this. We have to talk about this right now. We have to have
some perspective on this because Yeah, one of the things that I keep hearing is how important this moment was for the United States. And I gotta be honest with you, it was. It was really important. So let's talk about why.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, first I want to see, I'm like an older guy. And just before we start this whole conversation, I wanted to kind of get a sense from you. Since you're younger, you're kind of looking at this from a very different perspective than me. I've been watching this dumb shit stuff my entire life. So I'm just curious, just in general, what's your opinion of what's going on?
Well, okay, so I'll preface this by saying I'm not a very politically involved person. Honestly, I hardly even watch the news. I think most of it's just bullshit. I think most of it's lies. It's all negative. They have like one cute little story about a dog at the end of it. It's like the news has never been interesting to me because it's so negative, and I really feel like most of it's lies. And that being said, I'm not a huge political debater necessarily. I'll watch videos when it's something that may involve me, or the big issues that are going on around, gender, border control, abortion, the bigger issues that are going on, because I'd like to know how that's going to affect me, my future family, all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, I stay away from that. I do like to watch, some of the more right-wing conservatives, Charlie Kirk, Matt Walsh, a lot of the kind of people who are on the Daily Wire, because it's interesting. I really appreciate them doing a lot of the open mic conversations with people that disagree with them. I feel like it's important for us, kind of like how we run our show. It's important for us to have the open communication, open up the conversation for anyone who agrees or disagrees. So that's pretty much the extent of what I don't even vote, honestly, because it feels like the last couple presidents and elections that we've had, I've really not been a fan of any of the candidates, and so I don't even go and vote because, well, I'm not the kind of person that thinks that my vote actually matters with the amount of money that gets poured into this or that person. So all that being said, I'm not a huge political person, but I know stupid when I see it. That's pretty much, and that's what I see when I watch a lot of these debates. That's all I can really think to myself is, well, okay, policy makes sense and whatever, but you're stupid.
Okay.
Most of what you're saying doesn't actually make sense or have any real value to the country. You're just...
Well, okay, and you know what? Here's the sad part, and I'm really appreciating that you said that. The sad part is that and I'm not really, I'm like highly into politics or anything either. I never have been, but I've been around long enough where I've seen some presidents, some that are better than others. I've been around to see enough presidents that every president that I've ever seen, regardless of their party and their policies, every one of them has had really great things that they've done, and every one of them has had some really stupid things that they've done, and every one of them has been worthy of being made fun of. So that's just the bottom line with presidents, is that one, let's just say that they're all human to start with.
Yeah.
Well, I think after the debate, I'm not sure that we have two humans in this next. So I'm just going to put that out there.
I feel like if
either one of these guys qualifies,
I feel like one of them is like one trip away from getting Thanos snapped. Just obliterating into dust. It feels like.
Okay, and I think I know who that is, but let's get there. But I tend not to be extremely one way or the other. I'm not party affiliated. I am, But that's not, I mean, I don't even vote my party all the time.
Yeah.
I vote very differently because I'm looking for something in somebody. and
We're
that's different.
looking for values over
Well, yes,
most
okay.
things. That's
So here's what I want to do. I want to set this up today, and I'm just going to bring up like kind of a 5-step evaluation of this debate, because I really feel like we need to look at several different levels. Because if we just look at the funny, which I'm sorry,
most of it
was just absolutely worth laughing at.
Yeah.
But it's important enough for us to take a really good look at this and talk about it in a real way so that we can come to an understanding of what we're really up against. And I really feel like that's what we're saying right now. We are up against something as a country. We're not, okay. And I don't believe we have a good choice. And I've been saying that for 4 presidential elections now.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you do the math and you go back 4, I'm just saying the last 4 presidential elections in my memory, there was no good choice.
We were picking the lesser of 2 evils,
right?
Basically.
We could probably go back in history even farther, and you could say that about almost any of the elections.
Yeah.
But I go back in my history and I go, okay, I remember there being some really clear good choices for our country, and that's my opinion. I'm not saying that's necessarily true, but in my view, there were elections where I'm like, okay, for me, I have a clear good choice that I can get behind. I'm not sure we have that. I'm not sure we've had that for a very long time.
Which, I mean, just as a side note, that to me is confusing and sad at the same time. It's like, this is the person who's leading our country, and for however long, we haven't actually had good candidates, like good people who really focus on issues over throwing shade, basically.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there seems to be a lack of character, and the ones that do have it never actually get that far for one reason or another. And it could just be because they're not capable, or they're not willing to adhere to shady behavior to get them to that higher. And so
we're gonna get there,
right? And I figure we would, but to me, it's just like, that's really, really sad.
It is sad.
It's.
But I think that what we're gonna find is that the people who are being promoted by our political parties as the best candidates for our country have nothing to do with our country. And I think when we go through this 5-step evaluation, I think we're gonna get to the end. And I believe that what we're going to come to is a realization of where our political system is, more so than the 2 idiots that were arguing about white guy shit.
Old white guy shit.
Shit.
Yeah, and I mean, just with this, with our current president, it's definitely made me consider, like, who's actually running our country.
Yeah, well,
because it's definitely not him. There's a lot of decisions that aren't actually going through him, which really scares me, because it just makes me more and more. It kind of fuels the conspiracy theory part of me, where it's just like, what's really, who I'm sure everyone's got their own ideas of what's going on. Everyone's got their own theories and all that. It's just, it is one of those really troubling things to me, where we see this guy who can barely stand up on his own. He's clearly not running the country. So who is?
Okay.
Who's pressing the buttons?
Okay. So let's get into it. Let's get into this.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not going to take credit for this, because I've been kind of watching some of the other commentaries, and now my personal favorite commentary that I've just recently watched was the Daily Show that went live right after the debate. All right, best commentary I've heard yet, because 1, it was funny, but 2, I really feel like he did a good job at breaking it down for what it really was. Okay, so, but we'll start with this. Let's start with what the expectations were of each candidate before the debate ever happened. Okay, this is just think about this. Okay, the expectations for our current president was to not act his age. That was it. The media coming up to this thing kept saying things like, he can't have a senior moment. He's 82. He has to stay upright and stay awake. I am quoting things that people actually said were the expectations that will show our country that he is qualified I'm sorry.
If that's all it takes,
If
sign
that's-
me up.
I know.
Like,
It's like if all you have to do is stay upright and not fumble over your words about every 20 seconds. Okay, I think our bar has been lowered as far as president is concerned. Way too low, but that was for Joe Biden. The media. These are the people who like him.
right. Used to like him.
These people were saying that all he had to do was show the country that he wasn't 82 years old.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's not too bad.
Okay.
I think that's reasonable.
I think that's a reasonable expectation. All right. So that's expectations for Biden. Let's take a look at our other candidate, the illustrious Donald Trump, aka Tomato
I
Man.
know, mean orange man. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that is pretty much what he looks like, is a tomato with hair, a lot of hair. Okay, so this guy, and again, this is what the media said. The people who liked him said that he had to not be a bully, not be an asshole,
Oh.
and actually try to be normal for 90 minutes. Seriously, that's what was coming out of everybody's mouth, was for him to be successful in this debate, he had to just be a normal, relatively patient human being who could stay on issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll take those as our platform and let's rate how each of them did, just based on those expectations.
You can actually sum both of those up within one sentence between the two candidates. And I don't know if you remember this part of it, but it was when Biden was going off on some issue, and the end of the sentence was unintelligible. You couldn't tell what he said.
Oh,
And so he finished his sentence, and the moderator was like, "Trump, any response?" And his immediate response was, "I didn't really hear what he said at the end of that sentence, and I don't think he did either." And then he went off and do his own thing again. So both of them failed within one sentence.
okay, so let's just take Biden for a second. All he had to do was stay upright, stay awake, and not lose his train of thought really bad.
Yeah,
Okay,
it didn't happen. Really.
Okay.
He started well, but
no,
for the first 15 minutes or so, he was okay. He was moderately coherent and had elderly, eloquent sentences.
yes. However, if you were really paying, I'm sorry, because this is one of the things that the Daily Show brought up, which I thought was really good, is if you looked at the screen when both of them were being shown, the look on his face, even in the first 15
Yeah.
minutes when Trump was talking, you could, okay, there it is. Yes. The look on his face was just lost.
It was so long.
He was trying to
He's
listen.
catching every third word that she's saying.
He was like a 1980s,
He looks like he's actively pooping his pants. That's
And
that's
the
okay.
rest of the time, his eyes were closed, and you weren't sure if he was going to wake up again.
It was the Grandpa Baldwin, sitting at the dinner table with his eyes closed, trying to hear everyone talking. You remember?
Oh, yes.
You remember
the
that,
look
Grandpa?
on his, okay,
Yeah,
so
the Grandpa Baldwin. He's just sitting there quietly, just trying to listen to everyone, and he'll get like one sentence, and he'll barely respond to something that we said 5 minutes ago.
yes,
It was like that.
Now, okay, but we have to say something about explaining the Grandpa Baldwin effect. For those of you who don't know us, which I'm pretty sure most of you don't, my father was the spitting image of Joe Biden.
Oh, easily.
Both in how he looked and how he acted the other day. Okay, my dad passed away when he was 89, but he lost his capacity to think through and problem solve by the time he was in his late 70s. So when we say Grandpa Baldwin, the effect there, we pretty much lived it for several years. So
Yeah.
we know exactly what was going on when Joe Biden was having this blank moment where he was trying to figure out what the hell was going on and how he could respond.
Well, and
And
I
so-
feel like we were basically the Secret Service security team for Grandpa Baldwin.
yeah.
Because we were constantly watching him, constantly waiting for him to fall over, and we really didn't know what he was going to do next. We had no idea where he was going to turn, what he was going to say, any of it. We were just standing there with like peering eyes, just waiting for something to happen that we were going to have to save him from. I mean, I remember this one time where me and my sister had come home from school, and no one else was home except for him. And as we walk through the door and we're going down towards the kitchen, we look out the outdoor
Backyard.
the backyard window, and we just see him sitting there. He's just sitting there, like on the ground, sitting there, not in a chair or anything, just sitting there. And so we kind of open the door and like, Grandpa, what's going on? I fell over. I can't get up. Okay, Grandpa. And we walk over and just help him up and, get him back to his chair. But it's like, I feel like that's how his security team feels. Right. Where they're just going to find him sitting alone in a room like, I fell down. It's like he's in the Oval Office just laying down on the carpet like, Joe?
And he's been there for several hours.
I know, several hours. You okay? I want my ice cream. Okay. What kind of ice cream do you want, Joe? Chocolate chip. Mint. So we understand. So she kind of failed the expectations.
I think we could say epic failure.
Yeah.
Because the expectation was for him to not do exactly what he did the great majority of the time. Now, that does not to say that he wasn't lucid sometimes. He actually had some pretty good responses about stuff until he finished his sentence and went somewhere else.
Completely.
And it was like, what just happened?
Right.
One of my personal favorites during the debate was when there was this conversation about abortion. And I mean, Trump opened the door, and Joe, I mean, this was his knockout punch because of all the things right now in the country that is probably the biggest Achilles heel for the Republican Party is the whole everything going on around the abortion thing. And Joe, this was his knockout punch. I mean, he's only 30 minutes in, and man, he can really go for it. And he finishes his sentence talking about ladies who were murdered by immigrants, and he handed it right back.
Oh my God, I know.
Right to Trump.
Oh,
he
opened the floodgates for himself.
Okay, so we're gonna say epic failure.
Not so good
on the part of
expectations.
Okay, yes. Okay. Let's look at Donald Trump now. His expectation was pretty much be a normal.
Don't be a meanie.
Don't be a bully. Don't be a meanie. Be a normal person.
And focus on the issues.
For 90 minutes.
For 90 minutes.
That's all you had to do.
And please don't talk about yourself.
Okay, right. Normal person. Okay, I'm sorry. I heard someone say this, and unfortunately I don't agree with the person who said it, but I think it was kind of true. If in the middle of the presidential debate, you have to respond with, I never slept, with the porn star. Okay? I think you've lost the debate at that moment because you're not normal. Okay? Yeah. And he was a complete ass.
The entire time.
Because there wasn't a single response from him that didn't start with, this man is destroying the country. This man is terrible.
Well, and it went both ways. That's the thing is every start of every sentence was, that was a lie and you're a fucking idiot. And it was like, and the other way, well, you slept with a porn star and you called people suckers and losers. It was like, oh my God, shut up. Yes. Talk about the fucking country.
Okay.
Like, let's actually focus on what's important instead of focusing so harshly on what's wrong with the other person. Like, that is not what we need.
That was not what we wanted to hear.
No.
Okay. So from an expectation standpoint, I think that we can call, I'm going to be a little bit on the right here, probably. I'm going to say that Biden was an epic failure because his expectation was just to not act his age, which he did. I'm going to say that Trump was a failure, but wasn't an epic failure because the one thing he didn't do this time, which I was like, okay, let's be proud of Trump here because, he didn't actually try to yell across when his mic was turned off. and keep talking. He actually sat there quiet most of the time.
Most of the time, he you know, and
2 or 3
okay.
times he would come up with, Joe, you know, are you gonna play golf with me? Oh my God.
Well, okay, and so I want to get to that because
we're gonna get there. Just
no, just because what you just said, the whole not speaking over and all of that, actually not true. Because as they were talking about their golf game,
yes,
that is the one point in the debate that the moderator decided to turn his mic back on to allow him to respond when they were talking about golf. It's like, so in my view, it was an epic fail because I think he actually did fail on all aspects, and it awakened a new hatred for him because the entire time I'm like, okay, Joe can't even come up with a sentence. You have the floor here, man. You should be talking about nothing but issues, and don't let him get to you with all the meanie comments. Like, you have the win in your pocket because you can actually come up with a coherent sentence, and you have what the people want.
And all you could do
was talk shit the entire time and talk about yourself the entire time.
That's how great you were.
Every sentence out of his mouth was some glorified praise to himself about what he's done so well. It was just like, I didn't like either of them. And like last time Trump was, last time this was a thing, was Trump versus Biden. I was actually more so on Trump's side because it sounded to me like there was more talk about actual issues and there was less talk about how great I am and how much you suck. But
you obviously weren't listening.
Right, and I didn't, and that's the thing. I must not have been watching enough of it. But I mean, after listening to this whole thing, I'm like, I don't want either of you.
Okay.
Like, there is no winner here. You both suck. But I mean, I thought that was the funniest thing. The one time they decided to turn his mic back on in response was while they were talking about their golf game.
Right.
It was Are you kidding
dumbest
me?
argument ever. And do you do you remember the two final words or the final sentences out of both of them at that moment? This was probably the key moment for me when I realized what we were listening to.
Remind me.
Well, no, okay. So there was a lucid moment for Donald Trump, and this was like, where did that come from? He actually said just before they turned his mic off, so you could almost not hear it, but he said that we're spending a lot of time arguing about stupid shit. This is basically, I'm paraphrasing, and he said, and let's stop being children. He said that. Okay, now that's not a direct quote.
And it's not exactly what he presented.
No, it's not. But at the end of that thing, he's like, let's stop being children. And Biden, with his mic still active, said, you are a child. Oh my God, are you kidding me? I felt like I was watching a kindergarten.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Awful.
Okay.
So in my view, they both epically failed.
They
on
did.
all fronts.
You're
like
right.
They both.
I'm going to give you that one, that it was an epic fail on both their parts because neither one of them, with the low bar that was
so
set,
low. Oh my God.
That's all they had to do to be successful.
Right. And either one of them, if they met the criteria, would have won. Easily. Handily.
All you had to do, one of them just had to ignore the other person's bullshit
and talk about issues.
Talk about the issues, and they didn't. Okay, so epic failure, both sides. So I think that the next thing that we were going to evaluate, which we already did, was how was their performance.
Yeah.
We have identified that both of them lose.
Easily.
Okay, both of them lose. What's the outcome of both of them losing? Okay, let's talk about the outcome of the debate when both of them could not meet these very low expectations. What's the actual outcome? Okay, I think this is probably not going to be brain surgery for anybody, but when they couldn't do that, the outcome was we all lose.
Right.
We all Americans, everybody out there, hope you're listening to this. And I don't know that I haven't heard anybody on the media say this, although it's been inferred quite a bit. The simple fact is right now, with the two candidates we have, after the absolute circus that we saw in the debate, we all lose.
Yep.
I mean, it is, this is what I'm talking about when I say there's no good choice. I'm not saying that I like either one of them better than I like the other one. And I honestly, at this point, I don't know if I'm going to vote because I don't want to put my name behind anything that is that absurd. But the truth is, no matter who votes or what the vote is, no matter who wins, we all lose at this point.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion on that is, I mean, just look at the possible outcome of either one of the candidates winning. So let's say Biden wins again. He's not going to make it another 4 years. The man is so old and so out of his space, like he's just gone. I literally don't think he's actually going to live another 4 years. If that happens, Kamala Harris is going to take over, and
the Democrats
although
like her
she's
even less.
Right, and although she's coherent, she is like a spawn of Satan, and you can just tell by the smile. Have you seen the Joker level smile? She is just the most terrifying. Like, to me, she's the snake in the grass, and so she, although coherent, would be even worse as a candidate.
Yeah.
Just based off of the behavior. And again, I'm not even looking at policy because I don't pay attention to that kind of stuff. I look at the person. I try and figure out, and I look at how they act, how they respond, how they talk to people, how they talk about themselves, all of that kind of stuff. And again, this is why I don't like Trump anymore, because I really lived that whole how he talks about himself, which I just hadn't seen. It's crazy to me that I hadn't seen it, but I hadn't seen a whole lot anyways. So that's the outcome that I see for Biden, is he's not even going to make it. Well, meaning someone else is going to be running our country, whether he's there or not, because he's not going to be able to make decisions on his own. So someone else who we don't know is going to be running the country behind
who are we really voting for is
exactly.
The question.
Who are we really voting for? And if he dies and Kamala Harris takes over, that's even worse in my opinion. So that's one side of the spectrum. The other side is, if Trump wins, he is going to be so extremist in his policies, because I think he's going to take everything that he was already doing even further when it comes to, again, as we talked about, gender, abortion. I mean, I'm obviously on his side when it comes to our foreign border, our borders, and keeping immigrants out, like illegal immigrants out. Obviously, I'm on his side, but the other topics that really stir up a storm, I feel like if he gets elected, we're going to have a civil fucking war on our hands, because people are going to be so outraged off of what he says. They already hated him. Half the country already hated him for long enough. If he gets elected again, the people are going to revolt. So either way, we're looking at almost assured destruction of our own country.
Well, yes, and that's the problem. That's why we're talking about the outcome, because the outcome is nobody wins and we all lose. Now, what we're looking at is a no-win situation with these two candidates, and I think that's actually what we saw.
And I hope something changes.
Well, I mean, I'm going to quote Bill Burr because I think he's funny, but also really, when it comes to political stuff,
he's very point blank.
He's point blank.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to quote him and kind of go with him. It would be really great if both of them died a very quiet death before the election.
Yeah.
And that something
of natural causes.
Of natural causes.
No
FBI, no CIA. Yeah. That's just not what we're saying here. And I'm quoting, so you can watch the Jimmy Kimmel show and see this as well.
I mean, honestly, it's not going to take much.
And I love what he said. He said this, and I think that he's brilliant when it comes to this. He wants a president that's going to be in their 40s, 50s, so that once they're done with what they've done in office, that they'll have to live with their decisions for many years after that.
I want someone who's going to live with their decisions. I love that. That's going to be like my favorite.
Both of them. I mean, okay, Joe right now is 82. He's going to be 86, almost 87 years old when he leaves office if he wins again.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, quite honestly, even though according to him, he's just incredible.
I'm in the best shape.
I'm the best shape.
I aced all the tests.
I'm actually,
the cognitive testing. The doctor, he actually said no one's ever aced it before. It was oh my God, shut up.
Okay, Donald Trump is only 4 years. I believe it's 4 years difference. So when you do the math, Donald Trump will be the same age when he leaves office, if he goes in for a second term, as Joe is right now.
Yeah.
So I want us all to think about that simple fact that we're not really stepping up in age.
Right.
Just because Donald's hair isn't as gray and he seems to put together a sentence that is pretty coherent, although just all about himself. So, okay, good thing, good for him, but we're really not we're really not leveling up. We want somebody who's going to be around long enough to actually feel sorry about the job that they did later on.
So I mean, let's be honest. If we really want both of them out of the debate, all we really need here's the perfect plan to get them both out of the debate. All we need,
we're gonna get in trouble for this one,
is a staircase and some sun exposure. Because one of them's gonna fall, the other one's gonna burst into flames. That's all we need: a staircase and some sun exposure.
Okay, so what you're saying is that Trump needs to go to Texas in the next 2 weeks. Actually, he should just come here. Because next week it's if we could get him here by next Friday.
We're looking at like 110s.
No, 120 is what's 120 degrees next Friday.
Oh my god! So I was already sweating just driving here.
I know.
Like I was sweating.
So
horrible.
And those of you who don't know where we live, you're welcome to look that up and guess. But 120 degrees.
That's awful.
And that's what's forecast for next Friday. Now, what that really means is probably going to get to be about 117 or 118.
Yeah, but it's going to feel like still.
It's like walking into an oven. Okay, so we just need Trump to come here and do some campaigning, and he'll burst into flames. And we just need our illustrious...
I mean, did you see how he had to walk off of the stage after the debates? I mean, Trump just casually walks out the side and whatever.
Oh, you mean when he turns around like a Roomba?
Yeah, he turns around, and then his wife comes up with like a security guard, and they both have to like hold his arms going down the stairs. And then afterwards, oh my god, did you see like the after party, the presidential after party with Biden, where his wife is saying everything and he's just standing there like a giddy little child waiting for his ice cream cone? And you know what she said to him? This is going back to the expectations. What she said was, "You did so well. You answered all the questions." And then she went on this rant and like basically gave the crowd a cult cheer. And what's Trump? A lie. It was just the fact that, she like, you answered all the questions, and then you zoom in on Biden. He's yeah. He was just so gone. He's gone
again.
So
kindergarten.
So all we need is a staircase and some sun exposure. We'll be good.
You know what? So then we can go ahead and we can hope and pray for that. Okay. So the actual impact. All right. So we've gone through the expectations. Epic fail. The performance.
Epic fail.
Epic fail. The outcome.
No wins. We all lose.
We all lose. The impact of that. Let's really look at the impact of the choice that we are now has been thrust upon us. I'm sorry, if it was up to us, the Republican and the Democratic convention would look very different if we could actually vote. All right. Now, I know that with the Republicans, there was an opportunity for us as Republicans to vote and choose based on state by state, right? We did have that choice. I'm not sure exactly who was voting in those, but I gotta tell you, I'm a little concerned about the Republican Party if this is our candidate.
Yeah.
However, the impact to our country, no matter which way you go,
again, we lose.
There is no good choice. There is just...
Well, and the fact is, if these are our two candidates, it means we're still divided as a country. Because again, the way I look at this, the only reason both of them actually made it to that point again is because one side didn't like the other. That's it. No one's actually still thinking about, not even the own American people. I mean, however many, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are really concerned about where our country's going, and a lot of them, I'm sure most of the people who actually care about the policies our country is being faced with are the ones who aren't voting because they feel like it doesn't matter.
Right.
The ones who are voting are the ones who don't like the other side. That's it. And so the impact that this is having is that it's keeping us more divided because we're not actually focusing on our country. We're focusing on who we like and we don't like. It's a popularity contest.
I don't even think it's a popularity contest. I think people who are going to be voting for this aren't voting because they like somebody. They're just voting against somebody they don't like.
Yeah.
So you choose the lesser of two evils because I really hate that guy. And that guy, I think, would do less damage. I mean, I think you're talking damage control. And I
Right. One side's saying Joe's too old, we got to get him out. The other side's saying Trump is too much of a narcissist and he's a fascist and a sexist and all this stuff. We got to get him out.
Right.
That's all we're thinking.
That's all we're thinking. Now, I got to be honest with you. Now, my mom, God love her, she's 84 now.
Isn't she like a diehard Trump fan?
She's kind of a diehard Trump fan, and I love her to death. But I've been telling her for a long time. Honestly, she's like, oh, Trump did pretty good. He did shut his mouth. I'm like, yeah, for 90 minutes. God, he's still
And
a
he
narcissist.
didn't shut his mouth,
He's still
really?
a narcissist.
Yeah.
The kindest thing, I said this a long time ago, the kindest thing, the most patriotic thing these two men could do at this point is to both drop out of the race.
Which, is really interesting because I heard during the debate, both of them said at one point, I'm only here because you're here. Both of them said it. Both of them said it. I distinctly heard. I mean, Biden was like, if you're running, well, then I'm not going to let you win. I mean, that was basically what he said within like the first 10 or 15 minutes of the freaking debate. That's the only reason that they are there is because they don't want the other person to win. And that is a terrifying thought that neither of them clearly, given how the debate went, neither of them actually care about the country.
Right.
They care about keeping someone else out of power, which is how their audience responds. So this is the impact that it's having, is that we're not actually focusing on our own country, our own people, our own issues. We're just focusing on who we don't like, which seems to be a common theme everywhere. I mean, you can't open the comments section of any, platform without seeing just shit tons of hate. People are just so negative. They're not focusing on the good anymore. We're focusing on destroying what we think is bad instead of creating what we think is good.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're helping with this commentary, but that's okay.
But that's what I'm saying is I feel like that's what we need to get back to is stop focusing so much on destroying everything you don't agree with and start focusing on building something you do agree with. Because you might find that there are actually a lot more people who agree with you and who don't want to actually be negative. I mean, God, there's this woman that I work with who said, I need to stop using the word hate so much. That's an awful negative term. Within 2 minutes, she said it. And, she caught herself. She's like, oh, I just said it again. And I
hate it when I do that. I did it again.
Right. It was one of those, oh, God, I just hate when that happens. I'm like, She's like, oh, God. But it was one of those things we've gotten to that point where I feel like we're so caught up in our own negativity and suffering that we just want to destroy everything negative and suffer, all the negativity and suffering around us. And so that's all we're really focusing on.
We're the knights who say knee.
Yeah.
I said it again. I said it again. Knights who say it.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail. If you haven't seen it, please go watch it. And that's some of the best quotes of all time come from Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
I'm sorry, that's all I could think for a moment when you said that. When she said hate again, I'm like, sorry. Okay.
Anyway, so that's what I see the impact being is either way we lose. And the impact is we're still just as divided as we've ever been because we're not actually focusing on what's good.
And neither one of these leaders are going to lead the country into actually doing that.
Because they're both focused on the same thing.
Well, I mean,
I'm here because I don't want you to win.
That's not what Joe's focused on. Joe is focused on getting to his next meal and a chair.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all he's focused on.
Yeah.
And Trump is just focused on being Trump, So neither one of them.
He's thinking about his golf game and about the next tournament he's going to win or whatever.
Or lose. Which, I'm sorry, I think if we fact check that one, he really didn't win the last 3 tournaments he was in.
I mean,
okay, so
that, probably 90% of the shit they were saying was a lie anyway.
I'm sorry. You know what? I keep hearing, this is one of the things that's starting to really bug me, is everyone's fact checking Trump.
Yeah.
And literally, he lied
Right.
and lied again and then lied again. And I think they said on average, when you counted the number of lies, he was lying every 90 seconds.
And see, that's, to me, it baffles me that you are trying to become the leader of the country and you don't have enough self-awareness to know anyone can check if you're lying by a quick Google search. Like, you cannot lie on TV or in a public setting anymore. You cannot. You know why? Everyone's going to be checking. There's going to be some person somewhere in the country or in the world who is going to question everything you have to say.
Yes.
And they are going to find out the truth. So lying in a public space on live television in front of millions of people is just about the dumbest thing you can do. Because they are all going to be fact checking you. They are all going to find out the truth, and you are not going to look any better.
Right.
It's crazy to me how much these people lie, knowing the internet exists.
Right. Okay. So now I want you to do the math on the every 90 seconds. Look at how long each of them had to speak, and so they had to trade off.
Yeah.
They traded off about every 90 seconds.
Yeah.
That means that he
Every
lied
time
every time he opened his mouth. Every time his mic was
Just-
open, he was lying. Now, what my problem is that across the media, that was the first byline, the first reaction about Trump's performance. All right? Now, maybe they're giving Joe a break on the fact that he just doesn't remember shit.
That's no excuse.
But I'm sorry, when he started talking about things like how the entire nation or the entire world would trade places with him because we're so respected and that all of our allies, I was like, oh my God, what world are you living in?
Right.
All of our allies trust us. Israel right now is complaining about the fact
Yeah, none of our allies trust us. What do you mean?
that they don't trust us, and they are being very vocal about it because they feel like we're failing them in what we're giving them. Now, I'm not going to start an argument about what's going on in Israel. That's not my point here. What I'm saying, though, is that our allies don't trust us. And I actually think that one of the things that wasn't a lie that came out of Trump's mouth was that they don't actually respect us. And one of the things, and this is the other thing, I was like, okay, I actually kind of agree with that, and this has been history. I can go back in history to other presidents where this has happened, where when we have a weak president that other countries know is not going to do something about whatever it is that they're trying to pull in the world, they are waiting for a weak American president to do those things. So if you look back in history, when we have had a strong president, other countries don't go to war during that time. Or if they're at war or they're doing something dumb, when we have that strong president and strong presence elected and start, those wars end. Those wars, whatever's going on, it's done, right? I've seen it in past history. We saw it in the 1980s with the transition between Jimmy Carter, who was a very good man, but as weak of a president as we've ever had, just from his ability to decide and be intimidating as a president. Okay. We saw that there. We saw it with other transitions. And we saw that when Trump left office, in no time, we started having problems with Russia. We started having problems with Korea. I mean, we have had problems on the world stage. And one of the things that Trump said, which I actually appreciate, is those wars didn't have to happen, and they're happening because we have a weak president, Joe Biden. I actually think that's true. Okay, so one moment of truth there for Trump. Otherwise, lied every 90 seconds. Okay, so I appreciate what you say about the fact that we're spending our time voting for somebody. We're basically saying who's going to do the least damage to my wants and desires.
Exactly.
Who
agrees with my ideology more,
rather than,
or who doesn't care about my ideology.
Okay. And so here, I think we're kind of getting to the end of our time here, but one of the things I want, and we always end with this, and I think it's important to end with this, is when I got to the end of the debate, I thought, God, what's my reaction? What's going on here? And I was worried
Mm-hmm.
and bewildered.
Mm.
Not
That's a
because
good word for it.
I
yeah.
mean, really, I feel just powerless right now, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate that here we are in a country where our voices are supposed to matter, and I'm bewildered because I don't really have a choice.
Yep.
I don't have a good choice here, and no matter what we do, we're going to end up with another shit show for 4 years. It came down to one thing for both of these men. With the way they spoke to each other, with the way they talked about the country, with their dreams and wants. I wanted to hear what their dream was, not what
They
their
don't-
nightmare has
They're
been.
not gonna live long enough to see it.
Well,
I mean,
right,
it's like at this point, their dream was to run the country. Congratulations, you did it.
right. And both of you have already done a shit job. So, okay. But you know what? Neither one of them had any character.
Oh God, zero.
I mean, when
Nothing.
we talk about character, we're talking about men who can speak the truth.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that either one of them had that ability. Men who can take responsibility for both the good and the bad that they've created
Admit your faults.
and tell us what you're going to do to make that better. It's the basic
Without
conversation.
pandering to what you think we want.
Right. It's the basic conversation that we start teaching kids in preschool.
Well, not anymore.
Well, no, I think that there are some good teachers out there that want you to not feel sorry or guilty.
Hmm.
Okay? I feel like a good teacher, sorrow and guilt and shame, those are internal things that you, if you feel them, they're yours. But a good teacher is going to say, I want you to take responsibility for not your intention, but your impact. Okay? They're going to start with that. So both of these guys, no matter what their intentions were, both of these guys have the opportunity to take responsibility for the impact, both good and bad, that they've had on the country.
Yeah.
Right now, I really believe that both of them are having a negative impact on the country just by still being in the race. Okay?
Yeah.
1, kindergarten, take responsibility for your behavior. 2, go to the person that you had impact on and let them know, 1, that you understand, and that 2, you are going to try to make it better. Okay? It's a very simple planning process.
The problem is we're still dealing with third graders.
Right.
Eloquent, somewhat, somewhat eloquent third graders. That's basically. I was talking to someone else the other day about this, and that's what he told me he was thinking of when he was watching the debate. It's just a bunch of eloquent third graders. And that was probably the best way that you could describe that. Is they still haven't really learned that lesson yet that you're talking about.
That's what I mean. So what are we really looking for? I don't care if you're from the Democratic Party. I don't care if you're from the Republican Party. I don't care what party you're from. I don't care if you're left. I don't care if you're right. But for Pete's sake, let's look for men of character. Let's put people on the ballot that actually have some character.
You know,
What happened? Where are the politicians of character? I'm not even going to say men of character anymore,
Right.
Because I don't
care.
I don't care. I want a person of character.
Yeah.
Who is going to walk in and be fair, who's going to be able to listen, and maybe they do have an agenda. Whether it be a little bit right or a little bit left, that doesn't mean that you can't actually respect the people around you, even if you disagree, which is something in our country that is not well known right now.
You know,
if you disagree, it means you are disrespecting me, and that's bullshit.
Yeah.
I think we need people of character who are going to be able to say, I disagree with you, but I still respect you. I still want to listen, and let's see if we can collaborate. I'm not talking about coordinate, or I'm talking collaborate so that the country actually frickin' wins. Right now, with our political system, there is no win. Nobody wins. There's no collaboration. We've seen it for many years, but right now, I think we're coming to the peak. I think we're coming to the summit of our political system actually being so out of sorts that there is almost no road back. And with these two guys,
We are at the tipping point for an absolute collapse of our own country.
I really
Just
feel like,
based off of what we're seeing and how it is impacting people right now. I mean, you say you're a Trump fan and people are immediately labeling you with every name in the book. You call yourself a Biden fan and they're basically about to just beat you over the side, over the side of the head because
Right,
of whatever they see about it. It's like, how could you possibly
How
vote for
could-
him? How
right.
could you possibly vote for him? It's like we're at each other's throat for voting for two people that both suck.
right.
Like,
It's like,
both
why-
of them suck, and we're still at each other's throats.
Why are we even arguing about these two guys? How
Right.
did we get here? Come on,
Right.
people.
So I mean,
how did we get here?
So I completely agree with you that we need someone who has honesty, integrity, discipline,
Yeah.
a strong hand. Basically, I mean,
Yeah.
we need someone who doesn't claim to be fit, who doesn't claim to be strong and capable and coherent, who is strong and capable and coherent. I mean, hell, let's get someone who's a gym who actually goes to the gym. I mean, seriously, get a 45-year-old dad who is in really good shape, who's got good core values, who's got good ethics, who doesn't lie, and who doesn't slander their opponents at every chance they get. I would be willing to bet if there was a candidate with all of those things who went up on the stage and didn't say a single negative thing about their opponent, who only focused on their policies, what they are planning to do, who admits their mistakes, who admits the dirt that they have in their past. Have you ever seen the movie 8 Mile? It was basically the coming up of Eminem.
No.
Okay, so and he plays his character. It's really funny because Eminem plays Eminem in the movie.
That's not acting. That's just being yourself.
I know,
So that's
it's really funny.
okay.
But so and it's his journey in the rap history or whatever. It's basically his rise to fame or whatever, and his very
Wow, that's not
impoverished.
narcissistic. That's not narcissistic at all.
It's really funny. But it was basically his impoverished starts to his rise to
Okay.
fame. Anyway,
Good
so
for him.
So the first rap battle at the beginning of the movie, he is he completely screws it over. He doesn't end up going up. What was the word? He like shrank under pressure or whatever, so he couldn't even do it. And then as the movie goes, much of stuff happens to him, and by the end of the movie, he gets into another rap battle with the guys that had beat the shit out of him, and who there was a guy there that had slept with his current girlfriend or whatever, and so the final rap battle, he goes up there and he goes first. What he does is he says everything that his opponent is going to say about him. He says, oh, this happened to me, and you did this, and you did this, and you did this, and he basically called himself white trash. He said that, and then this guy slept with my girlfriend, and you guys beat me up. He basically admitted all of the shit that this other guy was going to say about him. He admitted all of it in his entire session. Other guy came up, he had nothing to say. And that was basically how he ended the rap was, now tell me something about myself that I haven't already told everyone else. That's what he said. And he won. Imagine if we had a candidate that was open about his own dirt, who admitted it at the forefront, who didn't slander his opponent at every chance he get, and only talked about the things that he wants to improve and strengthen within our own country. I'm sorry, what is there to hate? How pure would that be that we don't have someone up there that is just complaining about everyone else, that is just trying to get a leg up by talking shit?
Well, I honestly believe that there are a few politicians that actually meet that criteria. I
would register myself as a voter just to vote for that person.
I think that there are people out there. I think that we have gotten to a point where some of those people can't raise the money.
Yeah.
Because at this point, our political system is not really, when you look at just go through the primaries for the Republican Party this year, there were certain people, and I'm not saying that those people who dropped out were the people who were the best candidates. I'm saying that there were people that dropped out and didn't make the cut to get on the next debate stage because they didn't have enough money. It had nothing to do with their policies. It had nothing to do with the numbers. It had to do with the fact that they just couldn't raise enough money to stay in the race.
Which is really sad that we are allowing candidates to move forward based off of how much money they have.
Right. And just think about this. all those people who were on that stage who spent all that money to be a candidate never actually got a chance to be on the stage with the one person who's actually now our candidate.
Mm.
Because, well, the one thing that Donald Trump is wildly rich.
Yeah.
He always has been. He always will be. And he basically could fund his own campaign he could have funded his own campaign without ever asking for money from. Now, it's not to say that people don't send him money because they really want him to win, whatever. But we've gotten to a point where it's really about the numbers when it comes to dollars and cents.
Right.
So when we look for somebody who's going to be decent, they usually are not going to be the upfront person because they probably don't have the money, because they don't have whatever the pedigree is.
Which is why
our whole political system is all screwed up.
Which is why I don't feel like my vote actually matters, because if my candidate doesn't have enough money, my vote doesn't matter. I'm not voting for a bunch of idiots.
Well, I mean, we could go in and just write the name in. You know, you have that option. You can actually go and get your ballot. And if you don't like any of the candidates on there, you can actually vote for somebody who's not even on the ticket.
And to me, it's just like, I still don't think it matters. I mean,
it really doesn't.
You know,
all it does is make a statement about what I really think, but nobody's counting that vote because it's not going to be one of the majority.
You know, I was talking to a friend about it the other day, and we were both talking about the fact that it's like, this is just where our country is dead. I mean, this is going to run us into the ground. And he's like, I can't think of how it got to this place. And what my response was, because we're living in a desensitized circus. Everything has to be put to the extremes. That's why there's more sex on TV. That's why gore is everywhere. I mean, God, you can't watch a show without sex and gore at all. And everything is put to such extremes, including our political system.
Yeah.
We want a show. We don't want something normal. We don't want normal values or normal people. We don't want any of that. We want to be entertained.
Right.
We want to be entertained. So who's the most entertaining, clickbait worthy? I mean, shit, it's probably, all the influencers, because they're just feeding off of all the content that they're getting. Bill Burr said it he said it on the show. He's like, this is free content for comedians.
Right. And he was talking about if Trump won again, not that Biden doesn't.
Right. It's 4 years of content.
That's right. I mean, the comedians are going to love this because he is just ripe and ready to be made fun of.
We're doing it to ourselves, where we're allowing these rich people to get their place because we're all voting for them because we want to see a show. We want to be entertained. We're so desensitized to anything normal.
But doesn't it also speak to the fact that we want to have something to complain about? I mean, if you really look at it, I mean, one of the things, if you actually look at the way that television is going, I mean, how is it that, like, Housewife, the MILF House, is that really a show? Okay, I'm sorry.
You know where this all started? Naked and Afraid. Do you remember that show when it came out? And everyone
happened long before that with Real Wives. But I mean,
so.
if that's what people are watching, that stuff, they'll choose to watch that show.
Yeah.
And it's because, well, I those people are just freaking idiots, and I can be better than them, so I'm going to watch it so I can complain about them and feel good about myself. If our president is dumber, I'm sorry, than like the most of the country, and I mean dumb in that they don't have anything to actually give.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, I'm not a brain. I'm not a brainiac.
You're providing. He is providing nothing but memes for the country.
That's the whole thing, and we'll have something. Half of the country is going to have something to complain about, and the other half of the country
is going to laugh about it.
Is going to laugh about it, and then say, "I'm sorry because I voted."
Yeah.
So at this point, I don't know. I don't even know what we're going to do about it. But what I think we can do as Americans is stop complaining and start voting for character.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Well, and I think
the strongest message we can have is to not vote for either of these idiots and just, I'm sorry, this is going to be way against the American way. But if nobody voted, like if you actually had the country make an agreement that no one was going to vote because we don't have a good candidate yet, wouldn't that be the strongest message we could come up with?
There was a post that I saw on Instagram, and it was like probably 20 to 30 people robbing a jewelry store.
Yes,
And
I've seen that.
you've seen that. So I mean, they literally broke through all of the doors and all the windows, like
all at one time.
Right, within like 30 seconds of showing up. And the shop owner just literally kind of crouched down, and he had nothing to do. And the top comment was, "This is how easy it would be to overthrow our government if we all wanted to."
Right. No, that's exactly the truth.
Right. They would like there's nothing that they could actually do if we could actually come together and decide that, hey, you know what? This isn't running so well anymore. We're being taxed out of our asses. All of our candidates suck for presidency. Like they're letting in immigrants left and right, illegal immigrants just flooding into our border. It's like our country, our political system is not doing so well. And this is kind of where my conspiracy theory brain comes back in again. The reason why they want Trump and Biden is because they want to keep us divided, because the second we find something to unify ourselves against, they lose.
That's true.
The government loses the second we're unified. As soon as we can all come together and decide that none of this is working, they lose.
Well, and the way that we do that without violence, okay? Because I mean, we're talking, violence,
right?
Kind of. And I don't want.
I don't
want to be the person who's like, hey, let's go be violent. I mean, that's a whole January 6th thing. I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, we're not advocating for any kind of violence. All we're saying is, if we all unified, we could pretty much solve this.
We could solve it
in a peaceful manner.
And that's what I mean, is that in a peaceful manner, if everybody just didn't show up on voting day.
Right.
Or let's say that you want to vote for something specific for your state and your city, but the one thing that you don't click is the presidential stuff. Let's say that you go to vote, but everybody just ignores the candidates that are on the presidential thing and no votes came in. Nobody wins except the American people, because...
But here's the thing. We might actually see someone else win, and all of these numbers are coming out of nowhere, and we're all like, well, hold on, we didn't actually vote. What happened?
Right. Okay. So then
we would see exactly where all of the votes are coming from.
Right.
And there's there's already tons of conspiracy. I mean, the reason that they're saying that the Democratic Party and the Biden administration is allowing all of the illegal immigrants to flood in is because it's votes.
Right. Well,
it's free votes that they can start counting.
It's free votes, except they're not supposed to be able to vote.
But that's the thing, is they're allowing it so that they can build up the numbers.
Yes. I agree with you.
So again, it's one of those, So I think if we were to do that, then we would start to see, it's like everything would kind of open up. But they want us to be divided because they know what could happen as soon as we're unified in something. So they're going to do everything they can to keep us divided on every issue possible. And people feed into it all the time. This is why I don't watch the news. It's because people who watch the news get fed into whatever they see.
That's true.
I'd rather surround myself with very little information, because then I'm not influenced any particular way. And honestly, I'm already thinking about just cutting out like generic TV and shows and stuff like that. I'll still play games and whatever, but I'm finding myself so desensitized to things that should bother me, especially when it comes to like gore, like graphic content. Basically, I'm watching this show called The Boys. And I mean, it's graphic, like starting out.
No, I know. I've watched.
But I've
watched several seasons.
Right. And so I just watched the last season. It's just like,
it's gross.
And it's the fact that none of it. I mean, obviously I know it's fake, and so it's like it wouldn't. I'm sure if I saw that in real life, it would bother me. But it's the fact that it's like I can watch something like that, and it's not even a second look. There's no cringe. There's no emotional reaction when I see someone's head like explode in front of me.
You didn't have a reaction when I saw that scene.
No, and see, that's the thing. Right. What? Pretty much every time I'll see something like that, it's more like, oh man, that sucks for you. But it's not like, oh, ew. It's so I'm finding myself so desensitized to things that really should bother me, and I'm like, God, this is probably what's happened to a lot of people who are voting one side or the other. Is they're actually getting desensitized to extreme views, extreme ideas, extreme policies, all of this stuff. They're getting so desensitized, and they're being sold into ideas that I really don't think they would have unless someone is consistently like fueling it towards them, funding it towards them. I mean, this is because it really concerned me when I was watching that clip of of Biden's wife basically talking for him after the debate, because what she said after she's like, "Oh, you answered every question," and then she turned to the crowd, and Trump is and the crowd in unison, "A liar." I mean, sure, it's true.
Well,
I mean,
it
yes,
was true.
It was true, but the fact that we're making chants against other people, it makes me think that a lot of people are getting fueled.
Oh yeah,
They're getting flooded with this kind of information that this is bad and you should believe in this, and we're getting indoctrinated by a lot of it.
That's okay. Indoctrination is the key word there, and that's any political system.
It's still concerning.
Oh,
I don't care
concerning.
if it's every political system. That's really concerning. That's even more concerning that it's every political system is indoctrinating us to a certain ideology. It's like
that's the whole.
Like, go touch some grass, read a book. Jesus. All right. Anyway, we're way over our time, so let's wrap it up. Yeah.
Wrap it up. Okay,
Let's
so
wrap
here's
this
the
up.
thing, and I think that we can all agree on this. If we had people of character on the ballot, would we actually vote character? And can we, if we united? I think that's a great idea. What is the message to our government if everyone unites and says, "Hey, you know what? No one really voted for this ticket."
I think it would turn very, very south. Because if they start to realize they're losing power, we're going to get hit with another random virus. I mean, I've got my own conspiracy theory on COVID. I've got my own conspiracy theory about anything that we have very little information about that just is so, what's the word? Prevalent in our daily lives. Anything that we don't know about that becomes immediately prevalent is concerning to me. So, I mean, and I could be completely wrong. COVID, I do understand that it was a real virus that did kill real people, and it was a real problem. It was the fact that it came out of nowhere. No one was really certain on where it came from. There was always, everyone had a different opinion of where it came from. I'm sure there's an actual reason, there's an actual place that it came from, whatever. I'm just a very skeptical person when it comes to things that immediately impact me that I don't really know about and that everyone is questioning and everyone's got their own opinion on. It's really concerning to me. So I feel like if they lose power, something catastrophic is going to happen that's going to force us to back off.
To unite.
Or
unite in a different way.
No, but that's the thing. They're gonna, it's gonna seem like we have to back off, but we have to approach the situation in a unified way. It's our reaction to their catastrophe that's going to determine what happens next.
But that's something that we have to do. That's exactly what I'm saying, is you have to start somewhere. And if we start with simply
not voting,
either not voting or
we have to see the outcome of a unification.
Right. What would happen if we all actually said, okay, both these guys suck?
And that it just seems so far-fetched.
Just maybe we would end up with other choices if we say those two choices are really not the choices we want, especially after what we just saw.
Yeah.
So character, and
I'd love to see some more of it.
And let's get on the same page.
Please,
America.
get these two old men out of the way, because holy crap, I do not give a shit what your golf score is.
Or what it isn't.
Right, like, I'm sorry. I just don't care.
Yeah, that really had nothing to do with it.
Please, please lower the gas. Like, that's all I really want right now. Just lower some of the groceries and the gas. Like, it would really help. I don't care about how.
I just want to save a little money. All right.
So
okay. Well, hey, that was fun.
That was a good one.
So
just make sure obviously like and subscribe if you guys are liking our content. We're gonna try and get back to the weekly or bi-weekly uploads.
Yep. We took a little break. We've had
we just had some stuff going on.
Personal
stuff. So we will be back at it, definitely. And if stuff like this keeps happening, of course, we're going to be like everyone else. It's just going to be feeding us content. So, we might be part of the problem.
Can't wait for the next debate.
I know,
because it'll have the same kind of stuff. It's going to be great.
Anyway, so we hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next time.
Bye.